Radio. Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Doing good? All right, at this time, I'd like to ask everybody to silence your cell phones. This month looks like we're going to have our the Pledge of Allegiance by Shane Burton. That's all right with you, Shane? And then Landon Gully, you'll do our leader invocation, sir. Thank you very much. Does anybody have anything from your subcommittees or anything you guys need to bring up or anything during work session we need to talk about? That's right. David?
And codes and zoning got moved to the 25th of this month.
Correct. Thank you. And then, do you have anything, Amber, that you guys have?
Sorry. Our stuff was having to do with the tower lease. So when we get down to other business, that it'll be discussed there.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, let's see, moving forward, we have appointments this month, which on page 27 of your packets, we have a library board and planning commission. Resolutions, you have one at your seat that was distributed before when you got here today. And that is going to be resolution 2026-08842, which is the TNECD, the downtown program. 2026-08842 is supporting participation in the Tennessee Downtowns program. A letter of intent is required to be submitted by July 1st with the supporting resolution from the commission. The approval of this resolution does not obligate our county in any financial commitment, and there is no cost to be associated with the application. Participation in this will maintain and restore the county's eligibility to apply for future TNECD downtown improvement grants and any other downtown revitalization funding opportunities that they have come forward to us. It also provides us some access to some additional training and technical assistance and resources that support downtown economic development, which is a wonderful thing we have going on that could possibly help us with filling some of the empty buildings we got around the square and stuff. And this also helps develop tourism, historic preservation efforts, etc. So that's going to be in the agenda for this month. Our ordinances this month, public hearing and final reading of the ordinance 344-2026-06 wheel tax, which is on page 30. Also, fiscal year 27 budget ordinances and 2026 tax rates, public hearing, second reading, and third reading. These are starting on page 32 through 36, which is ordinance 347-2026-09 fiscal year 27 general appropriations. That's my next question. Anybody have any questions regarding this one, this first one? Next would be ordinance 348-2026-10 general tax rate, which is on 37 of your packets that you guys have. Does anybody have any questions regarding this one? All right, moving right along. Then we will have ordinance 349-2026-11, which is fiscal year 27 urban services appropriations. This is covered on pages 38 and 39 of your packets. Has everybody had time to look at this and have any questions on that? Fantastic. Moving on. Finally is ordinance 350-2026-12, 2026 urban services tax rate. And again, that's on page 40. If no other thing regarding that, then we will move forward into the budget amendments. Chris Gregory, if you'd like to cover that for me, sir.
Yeah, had one quick question, I guess, with regard to the budget ordinances. Just noting that that there are several not here for work session. Hopefully it won't be an issue next week, but I know we can go from second to third reading if a supermajority approves. Is that just of the total commission or the ones present?
Yeah, fairly certain it's the total commission. Yeah,
So we can't postpone it to another meeting. It's gotta be consecutive meetings.
all right then. So regarding budget amendments, Fund 101, General Fund, Chris?
Yes, Budget and Finance met earlier this evening, approved all budget amendments for favorable. 10119, most of the budget amendments are internal transfers, year-end adjustments. 10119 is year-end adjustments in the 101 budget, 21,100. 11104, $5,000 year-end adjustments in the urban services budget. 11604, 38,000 year-end adjustments in the solid waste budget. 11805, year-end adjustments in the ambulance services budget for $50,000. That's the one that budget postponed last month to try to get a little more information on. We did send it for favorable this month. 13103, year-end adjustments in the highway department, 91,800. 14117, year-end adjustments in the general purpose school budget, 9,745. 14118 TISA, 23,972. That is reflecting on behalf payments from TISA. 14119, $300 special year-end adjustment in the special education support budget. 14120G. This is incorporating a Tennessee Arts Commission grant of $1,220 into the school budget. 14121R, using contract reserves in the school budget in the amount of $2862. That is for credit recovery payroll. 14122G, amending the school's budget for the ongoing summer learning camps, the amount of $182,050.07. And 14301, year-end adjustments in the food services budget for $28,900. Does anyone have any questions on any of those?
Does anybody have any questions for Chris? All righty, thank you. At this time, let's see here, you do have a emailed handout regarding this was be the tower lease. And that would be,
There's no hand up mine.
Okay. it was previously sent email, that's what I said, previously sent emailed handout that would have regarding the tower lease. Is that, Amber, would you like to speak to that?
So far with the tower, most recently, I have reached out to a FAY that was part of the grant for the community center, the fire department, and a tower. And so want to see exactly how that read and if anything was allocated for the tower. It was part of a disaster recovery application. Still working on that. As far as the lease goes with Enbridge, I did reach out to him, to Mr. Haskins. He sent it up to his people. They agreed to it, had some questions about how the communications would work. I sent that to Waylon. Waylon said at this time that where it's sitting won't work for what we need. So we sent back maps in discussing how we appreciate it, but we're not able to do it at this time. We need it in another place. Evan White, that is part of Mid-10. when he put out our tower, there was no bids. So now he's reaching out to contractors to find out exactly why they didn't want to do it if it was timing. Recently, we have come across a DOJ grant of 700 million, which I have sent information to Waylon and Ray. Part of it is communications, so there's a possibility we can apply for a grant instead of spending our 400,000. So that is currently being worked on.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have questions for Amber? Yes, David?
On that grant that you were speaking of, have you been able to find out if that's a reimbursable grant or is it, we have to use the grant money? Is that something we can go ahead and spend our money and then they can reimburse us if we get the grant? Or do we have to wait and just use their money?
I'm not far enough into it to know much about it. I'm just now getting the information.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. We have also under other business was the TDOC contract. At this time, I'd like to turn this over to our county attorney here.
Good evening, everyone. I want to, first of all, I want to extend my thanks to the advisory committee, Toby Woodmore, Melissa Chalet, Mark Baylor, General Jason Lawson, and Zach Taylor for the hard work that they've done and continue to do for us and on behalf of the citizens of Trousdale County. We were able to meet last week and we had a very good conversation, frank conversations about the core civic, not the core, but the TDOC contract. Now, before us tonight is the TDOC contract. We're not talking about negotiations with core civic. Those are obviously ongoing. There's more follow-up to do on that, but the immediate and pressing concern is the TDOC contract. Some of you may remember you asked me to reach out to TDOC earlier in the year. I did. I did it in writing. I got a very brief response. And through really, after I learned today, after a conversation, through no fault of really anyone, I did not get the response prior to today. So I did last week reach out again, and that was in large part in a cooperative effort with your Prison Advisory Committee, and I was able to talk to Miss Elizabeth Foy of TDOC. She is their chief of staff, and we had a very good, frank conversation about the TDOC contract. It is very, those of you that looked at it, it's a fairly standard form contract. That's something that you see that's handed down from the state. Of course, there are some somewhat glaring edits that need to be made, but nonetheless, that's not the largest concern. The issues that we raised in our correspondence were one of the primary functions of what we wanted to see was body cameras, a decreased population, an elderly population, basically to dissipate a lot of the maybe gangs that were at Trousdale Turner. And all of this, just rewinding the tape a little bit, stems back from what happened in the incident of June of 2025. So I can tell you, based upon what I have observed and through what I have seen, there have been some changes made. Now, the strict requirements of setting it at a particular age 55 and older, the department's not going to do that, although they are endeavoring to put a more elderly population into Trousdale Turner. And I know that they have reduced the numbers of the population in Trousdale Turner. Ms. Foy did want to convey to this body, I asked if there's anything that she wanted to say, and I would relay that to you, that she's certainly considers the partnership that they have with Trousdale County a valuable one, and that their primary focus is on staffing and safety, those two issues. And I reiterated to her our concerns with our primary purpose is to make sure that our citizens are safe and to minimize any risk that we may have. So like I said, we had a very good conversation. Some of as some of you may know or may not be aware of, she estimated the population that TDOC has is upwards of 27,000. I thought it was a little higher than that. I thought it was 29,000, but is that pretty close? About 27,000. And there are 14 facilities in the state of Tennessee that the Department of Corrections can utilize. Of those 14, Trouser Turner happens to be one of their top priorities because Trouser Turner houses, I think, roughly 8 to 10% maybe of the population of inmates in the state of Tennessee. Under the current administration of Governor Lee, there's no plans to expand those. Maybe the next governor may, and it may have an impact on those figures about housing, and it may have an impact on what age groups and get a little better diversity when you have more prisons that are a lot more manageable. So that's yet to be seen. That's the next administration's issue. Some of the changes that they've made is one, they have in Ms. Boy's words, have totally revamped the way they do their investigative procedures in this state. They have shifted the population of Trouser Turner inmate number and classification. They're also expanding their programming, which is they've gone from a GED to a high set. And Mr. Gully, you're going to have to elaborate a little on that, the difference between the high set versus the GED. I don't know how that exactly works, but it has a lot to do with educational based programs. You're not familiar with it? Okay. Well, it is one of the things that they are doing, and one of the biggest things one of our biggest asks, and this was strongly encouraged by the prison advisory committee, as well as I know General Lawson spoke on this topic a lot, and I believe he did so at the General Assembly, if my memory serves me correct, but it was the body cams. And I really believe that as a result of the hard work of our advisory committee and a lot of the things that we did, or they did, I should say, and we'll give them the credit for that, is now in the state of Tennessee, effective July 1, 2026, there's going to be a pilot program for body cams. And it's my understanding, based on conversations that I've had, that Trouser Turner is purchasing those body cams and going to implement those, which is it's a big ticket item. It's a really big ticket item because one, they operate as a deterrent. Of course, I think we've been a big advocate of it through our sheriff's department here in Trouser County for a very long time. They're very effective. I think I want to say that we were one of the first in the state to have body cams on a lot of our officers. Mr. Burton, you know whether or not that's so or not? Okay, all right. Well, that was my understanding, but regardless of that, we implement them here, so it's a very good thing. There's also they have imposed, and I'm going to use the phrase heightened scrutiny over their contract monitoring across the state with core civic facilities. And so that is a lot of eyes are on Trouser Turner right now, more so than it has been, just as a matter of evidence. And I'm not aware of any, maybe somebody else is, but there hasn't been an episode like that occurred in June of 2025 that I'm aware of. And so it does appear that there are some measures being taken. Now, a lot of the things that I'm going over, and as I explained to the advisory committee, it's very difficult to put those in a contract. All right, the contract's just the contract. A lot of what we're speaking of are policies, procedures, and operational requirements. I do have some thought processes about going forward and how our county commission can insert itself more into the process without exposing ourselves to the open of litigation like we had with our prison oversight committee. And regardless of the nomenclature that was used for that, it did result in some individuals getting sued in one lawsuit, and it was very disconcerting. CoreCivic does have indemnifies us, so they do defend us in those things. But at the same time, it's not a very welcome to any one of you. And certainly, as I explained to Ms. Foy and others, you serve at the behest of your constituents, and you've got a tough task in front of you. So adding to it, knowing that you run the risk of being exposed to a lawsuit is not something that we welcome at all, and we want to minimize that as much as possible. And I continue to work on that on your behalf. So that's kind of it in a nutshell right now of what I've learned and where we are. Next week, this item's on the agenda, and it's a really simple issue, notwithstanding some corrections that need to be made, and that can be worked through with some of the two legal departments. The question is whether or not you're going to authorize your chief financial officer, County Mayor McCall, to execute this TDOC contract, and it's available to all of you. So I think we sent that out by way of email last week or a couple of weeks ago. Other than that, that's all I have. Sorry for being so long-winded. There are two members of the Prison Advisory Committee here tonight, that if anybody's got any questions of them, certainly they're here. I asked them to come tonight, and they'd be glad to speak if you've got any questions. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the advisory committee or for Brandon? Yes, David.
Mr. Beller, would a resolution in support of the policies that you had mentioned that are hard to put into a contract going to the state assembly, would that be something that would be beneficial to these conversations to, from a state level, have them make the Department of Corrections follow certain procedures and policies in this manner?
I think it's probably a conversation that you need to consider having with maybe some of your legislators, voicing your concerns with them. Obviously, there have been several conversations with our legislators, not through only through Mayor McCall, I know, and voicing concerns that we have. And I'm sure many of you have done that as well. I think that part I said about being proactive, that's part of it. It would probably be advisable maybe to have a liaison from maybe our group, small group from the county and TDOC to periodically to go over the concerns that we have with Trousdale Turner, should they arise, and kind of get us a progress report. Like I said, they've got contract monitors, and they have a person that does and I didn't really understand it, but it's maybe a statewide evidentiary investigator that they have over their prisons. And I think it would be worth maybe getting in on the ground level to speak with one of those persons one-on-one specifically about Trousdale Turner in our community.
Thank you. Commissioner Kerr, could you look and see if anybody had signed in on the podium there to speak this evening to this? And then I have a gentleman back here that has also requested to be recognized. If you'd like to, sir, if you could come up here and go approach the podium. If you could just state your name and all that, that'd be fantastic. Thank you, sir.
All right, well, thank you for letting me speak today to you guys. My name is Melissa Shala. I live in District 2 with my husband, and we live less than a mile from the prison. I have made my feelings known to this committee before, and I am here today again because we're running out of time, as we know. And I'm here to speak about the proposed renewal of the TDOC contract and also about the core civic contract, because we all know that those two things are tied together. I am thankful to serve as one of the members of the Prison Advisory Committee, along with General Lawson, Mark Buehler, Toby Woodmore, and Zach Taylor. But tonight, I'm speaking as a private citizen and as a resident who lives near the prison. You already have the Advisory Committee's recommendation document. As we all know, Mr. Beller have been requesting this contract since 2025, and they did not send it until May this year, with an effective date of July 1st. That's unacceptable. That is not negotiation, that is pressure tactics. I reviewed the contract, all 469 pages of it, and what I saw was alarming. Not one single item that the committee presented to you and that you presented to TDOC was addressed in this contract. Not one single thing. Now, Mr. Beller is telling us that they are talking to us now, but still, if you look at your recommendations, they're not budging. I don't see where they are budging. We're still in the dark. They're not giving us anything. This contract does not include the real protections, requirements, transparency, safety provisions, or accountability measures that the commission requested. In fact, TDOC sent us such a cookie cutter contract that even names someone else's mayor in the document. That should tell you how much they care. Even more concerning, the contract appears to support the existing arrangement with CoreCivic while placing the legal and contractual obligation on Charlesville County. So TDOC and CoreCivic keep the money in control, and Charlesville County keeps the liability, the risk, the bad reputation, and the danger. I am also very concerned that the contract references important areas such as a classification and management, but does not actually include the full pages and policies. Would you sign a contract that had missing pages? Without the full policies, how are you supposed to evaluate how inmates will be classified, housed, supervised, transported, or managed? How are you supposed to know whether they are being sent, if they're sending us dangerous inmates? How are you supposed to judge whether the staffing pattern is adequate? In what I saw on the documents, I don't feel that they are adequate. We're talking about one of the most dangerous prisons in Tennessee. And yes, it's quiet right now because this contract has not been signed. Let's also be honest about the money. TDOC will be paying, or let's just say how it is, funneling almost $80 million this year and over $95 million in the end of the 5-year contract. And what does Charlesville County get directly from TDOC? $0. We get no direct benefit, no real control, and no meaningful protection. While they use our county's resources, reputation, emergency services, and safety are all on the line. This is our county, this is our reputation, this is our future, this is our safety. We absolutely have the right to negotiate. I mentioned safety because I came before you a year ago, alarmed about the riot. And all because CoreCivic has such a poor handle on the prison that inmates nearly escaped. To this date, I still don't know what will happen next time. I still don't know what the public notification process is. I still don't know if I will even be notified if an inmate or inmates escaped. The public should not have to beg for information. I should not have to beg for information when I live less than a mile from the prison. I have a very serious concern that if this county signs the TDOC contract as is, Core Civic will also refuse to negotiate anything meaningful for us. They will know the county already gave in. They will continue running the clock and will end up with nothing but risk, liability, and them using us for our resources. That is not right. Remember, the Core Civic contract with the county, that very small contract, 13 pages right here, that we have had since 2014, runs concurrently with the TDOC contract. So if we don't have a signed TDOC contract, what happens to the Core Civic contract? And if there is uncertainty, then that's exactly why we need legal clarity before anybody signs anything. Core Civic is running the clock. They have not accepted the county's request. They have not agreed to the 3 million. They have not agreed to real assurances, real protections, real oversight, or real accountability. Paying property taxes is not a favor to Charlesville County. That is the legal obligation of owning property here. If that land was a Walmart or factory or a business, they would have to pay their taxes. Core Civic should not get a credit for doing the bare minimum that any property owner would be required to do. And frankly, I personally believe 3 million is not enough to operate the most dangerous prison in Tennessee under our county's name. I believe the number should be closer to 10 million. Why? Because if the state ever gets mad at us, or if the arrangement falls apart, Charlesville County needs money to stand on its own, plan for the future, protect residents, invest in safety, and eventually work towards freeing this county from the dependence of the prison. Do not be afraid to negotiate hard. Do not be afraid to say no. And don't forget the commissioner's already been sued because of Core Civic. And it can happen again and again, as long as Charlesville County is legally attached to this prison without real authority and real protections. At the mayoral debate last week, the candidates talked about safety, planning, economic development, and wanting people to come to our county, spend money and go home and help us prosper. But how is that supposed to happen when we allow Core Civic to use Charlesville County to do TDOC's dirty work? How are we supposed to attract families, businesses, and investments when our county is tied to lawsuits, danger, near escapes, riots, and one of the worst reputations in the state? We're being used. So I'm asking you tonight, please stand for Charlesville County. Ask the hard questions. Ask Mr. Beller what legal options exist to get more time. Ask whether the county can demand an extension or a continuation, like he mentioned. So we're not forced into signing a bad contract by July 1st. Ask where the missing policies are. Ask what happens if we don't sign. Ask what happens with Core Civic. Please don't sign that contract. TDOC waited until the last minute. Core Civic is running the clock, and Charlesville County should not reward that by signing away our safety, our reputation, and our future. And lastly, I know I said a lot, and I thank you for your time. I truly appreciate your time and your service and your consideration. I do not envy the difficult position you are in right now. I know this is heavy, and I know the pressure is real. But I'm thankful that you guys are here because I know that you can stand up for our county. And I'm hopeful that you will protect Charlesville County, protect the people who live here, and do the right thing. And please know that I'm here and you can count on me if you need my help in any way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris?
Question for Mr. Beller. With regards to the TDOC contract, is there any kind of clause in there, okay, if it's still under negotiation that like a, like, I guess like it, if we didn't have a budget passed, we'd have a continuing resolution while we finished it. Is there anything like that with TDOC or?
Contract expires at the end of this month, and there's that expectation of it being signed. All right, now I can always make that phone call and see what happens between now and next week. I'll be happy to do that. I've got the point of contact that I need, and we can have that conversation. Does that satisfy you, sir?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. First off, I want to thank you all.
You state your name, sir?
Yes, my name is Nathan Vaughn. I'm a resident here in Hartsville. As I said, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight and doing your all to stand up for Trousdale. As Ms. Melissa stated, I also want to thank you very much for standing up for us. I haven't had time to look over that information, so I really appreciate the time you've spent. I myself am here really just around safety. My main concern really is safety around that prison right now. And I'm really curious as if we have any language in that contract that restricts the prison population down to the actual number of staff at that prison. And if not, if that's something that we can look at doing, otherwise I'm not really sure how we can be safe. And really my other question really was, when will prison negotiations, that contract be discussed? Do we have that? Do we know yet? Or next steps?
We're addressing the TDOC contract. I'm not going to get into the core civic negotiations in a public forum. Okay. So as far as the timetable of that, that's a bit fluid right now.
Okay. Those are the only items I wanted to discuss regarding the prison. But since we were talking about safety here, I did have a question regarding Piers Bend or Boat Dock Road. It's become very unsafe lately due to the construction from the pipeline. Is that going to be addressed soon? I was told that it was going to be repaired by the pipeline company, but I just want to make sure we're not waiting until the construction's complete.
Mayor, could you speak to that for us, sir?
We've been having open discussions with Enbridge, and they have come to meetings before to express the fact that it is understood before they leave, the roads will be repaired. That's an ongoing discussion and a commitment from them.
Thank you. If you could you have them try to get a timetable? Because like I said, I'm afraid someone is going to get dangerously hurt going down that road.
Again, at this point, they're on the pumping station, they're at 70% completion. They're at 60% completion on the pipeline itself. And again, they've made the commitment to us to put the roads back like they were. I know it's been a real inconvenience for a number of reasons, but it's part of heavy construction. We've monitored that as close as we can, and we've had a number of calls with them when citizens express concern.
No. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else from the commission? David?
Mr. Beller, I do really want to know, what is the consequence if this body doesn't agree to sign the contract?
You have an obligation right now to pay core civic. Okay. So again, that's a conversation that Mr. Gregory raised that issue. So I'm going to have that conversation later this week with the point of contact that I have with TDOC.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything? Chris?
Just was going to ask Mr. Baylor, when you get an answer on that, is that something that you can like send to the commissioners ahead of the meeting, like by email, or was that something you would prefer to wait until next week?
If I get an answer before hopefully I'll have one before Friday, okay? And as far as the response, I guess I got to see what they say first. I might get some, maybe not an answer I want, or maybe that not even be clear. So right now I'll have that conversation and see what happens.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything else from the floor here? If not, I'd like to thank everybody for coming this evening, and I'll take a motion to adjourn. Got a motion from Jerry and a second from Chris. Be careful going home, everybody. Thanks again.